Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Chapel and New York webinar, International Fundraising from the Gulf. I'm Arnaud Marcilassi, Head of International Fundraising, and I will be moderating this fabulous webinar with our two speakers, Rivka Azoulay and Karima Anbar, and they will introduce themselves in a few minutes. Just a few words about Chapel in New York for the few of you who don't know us yet. We'll soon be 30 years old. Anniversary is coming up. We've been helping thousands of organizations all around the world to settle in other countries to raise funds, helping them to raise funds, usually through our umbrella foundations in 8 countries, including the US, Canada, the UK, Switzerland, Netherlands, Hong Kong, and lately in France, the last one. So it's a great webinar. I think it shows that a lot of interest. We had a lot of people registering, and we have 2 great speakers. So I will let them introduce themselves, and we'll start by Rivka. Rivka, would you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Rivka Azoulay. I have both academic and professional experience in fundraising in the Gulf region. I've lived for many years in different countries of the Gulf. I did a PhD in political sociology on Kuwait, on the Emirate of Kuwait, where I also had the chance to meet many business families. And I worked also as a fundraising manager for the ICRC covering the Gulf region. They're very nice to be with you today.
Thank you, Rivka. Karima?
Thank you, Arnaud. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy and pleased to be with you today. So I'm Karima Anbar. I've been working in the Arab world since 17 years now, first as French diplomat, and for many years in the field of charity and fundraising. And mainly when I started and I launched the charity of a Kuwaiti princess that I led for many years. So I'm happy to share with you my experience today and see how maybe we can collaborate all together in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karima. Like I said, when I introduced myself, I'm the head of International Fundraising. I have 50 experts, fundraising experts all around the world, including 15 in the US. And Karima and Rivka recently joined our group of experts, and they bring this fabulous expertise of raising funds in the Gulf region and in the Middle East. We will start with Rivka, and you can ask questions in the chat. And after Rivka is finished with her presentation, we'll ask her the questions that are in the chat. Thank you very much. Rivka, you have the floor.
Yes, I will ask Sue to put my PowerPoint on. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. Very nice to be here with you. In the coming 10 minutes, I'll try to give you an overview of the idiosyncrasies of fundraising in the Gulf, what makes Gulf donors tick. I'll also briefly discuss the compliance realities, as well as the context of Islamic giving and the implications for organizations wanting to fundraise in the Gulf. And I will finalize with a short overview of the key philanthropic actors in the Gulf. Of course, this is a brief overview, and I'll be very happy to have more bilateral in-depth engagements through Chapel and York. At the end of the presentation, I'll share the contact details with you. Next slide, please. So why Gulf philanthropy matters today? As we all know, fundraising from more conventional donors has tightened quite a bit over the past years. also more recently with cuts in US aid. The GCC region is a region that has a strong potential as well as a strong weight in international giving and philanthropy, counts around 210 billion annually in giving, which is around 4% of regional GDP, which is quite a bit higher proportionally than many other donors. Also, the GCC has seen recently a growing professionalization of its philanthropy with a focus on more strategic and impact-driven giving in key areas, which are for the GCC, I would say healthcare, education, youth employment, and sustainability. And philanthropy has also been often a soft power strategy of many GCC countries. Some have been more pronounced in this. We probably all know the example of Qatar. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so how do GCC donors approach international causes? I would say there are a few questions to ask yourself that are also considerations for the donors. First of all, does your project align with the priorities, but also with the identity of the funder? In the case of the state, if it would be a development bank or a humanitarian center, does it align with the national development priorities of the country or with the SDGs supported by the country? In the case of a family foundation, does it align with the identity of the family? Have a look at the history of giving by the family, because many families have particular topics they tend to fund. Second of all, and I think this is a very important one, is also from my experience, is that donors want to have a say in the design of projects. So they want to also co-design projects and also want to have a certain recognition amongst the beneficiaries in projects. My experience from the ICRC working with different donors showed this, and for organizations to be successful here, it's important to be flexible, ideally project-based, because if this is not the case, it can be quite difficult to accommodate also the interests of the donor. Another thing, of course, very important, given the importance given to compliance, is the pathway compliance. Do you have your due diligence in order? Are your partners vetted? And do you come with strong projects? And does your organization also have a good reputation, which is something that matters quite a bit? Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. So I think by the way, there's one slide missing, but we can go back to this later. I think this is also covered here. So compliance is central in the Gulf. This is also due to the history of certain charities in the past supporting more jihadi causes. So there is quite some oversight by government. You cannot just start a fundraising campaign in the region. You need to be licensed. Also cross-border financing is heavily monitored. Banks have strong anti-money laundering as well as counter financing of terrorism requirements. And of course, therefore, it's very important as an organization to have your due diligence package ready and to have your papers on order, basically. Otherwise, in my experience, this can cause quite some delays when it comes to negotiation with GCC donors. Next slide, please. So aligning with regional values and norms, Islamic giving, of course, is a major aspect of the history and also the current philanthropic scene in the Gulf. And we can see that organizations that are more successful in the region have also aligned with this context and have made sure that they created budgets, funding streams that are aligned with Islamic funding. For example, creating beneficiaries that are Zakat eligible. Zakat is 2.5% of the accumulated wealth for a Muslim, and that is attributed to different categories. For example, the poor, the needy, those in debt, and an organization that has been very successful in supporting or in fundraising in the Gulf is the UNHCR with its Zakat fund. But a Zakat fund means that you need also to make sure that you have a board, or that make sure that your funding is Sharia compliant, and that, for example, and that the funds will only go to those beneficiaries, but overhead costs cannot, for example, be covered by Zakat. So those need to come from a different source. Another thing that I think is very important here is that as an organization, you also respect the calendar, the Islamic calendar. So if you want to do fundraising, ideally you do the campaigns at specific moments in time. For example, now during the Ramadan. Also here, the UNHCR has a strong campaign as a successful example of fundraising in the region. Thank you. Next slide, please. So who is who? I will just go over this briefly, but I would say you have different type of actors. So on the state level, you have the development banks and the humanitarian centers. They are extensions of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, official development assistance. So their priorities are national development goals, sometimes also, of course, specific SDGs supported by the government. And here you can think of the Kuwait Fund, Abu Dhabi Fund, Qatar Fund for Development, and Chaos Relief. Then also you have foundations. Foundations are often supported by princes in the region, so by members of the ruling family or by important business families. Here again, it's important to look at the identity of the organization and to socialize, to be close to the circles of influence around the organization. Example is Al-Walid Philanthropies in Saudi Arabia, supporting more relief and development projects. Mohammed bin Rashid Global Initiatives, which is an umbrella organization of the ruler of Dubai, supporting different relief projects worldwide. Then there's also the Thani Al-Thani Humanitarian Fund, which is an important fund supporting refugee causes, mostly of Sheikh Thani. I used to work with them also in my experience for the ICRC, and there you see again how important it is to be close to build relations of trust, because they work through an advisor who is a trusted advisor, and to negotiate with the organization and with the fund, it was basically we had to go through this person. Then you have Education Above All, which is the organization of Sheikh Hamoza, supporting educational projects worldwide. So that's on the foundation level. Then you have the corporates. There's a whole history of business families supporting philanthropy in the region, but there's also a recent tendency to make it more strategic and impact-driven. There's the CSR strategies of different corporations supporting, also using Zakat to support different causes. And I quote here the Pull Initiative, which is an initiative by Emirati businessman Badr Ajafar, who also helps corporations in the Gulf to make sure that their giving is strategic, data and impact driven. So I would say, as an organization wanting to fundraise in the Gulf, look really at the identity, the priorities of the organization, and then start the fundraising. Please, next slide. Yeah, so final remarks. The Gulf is not new money. There's a whole history of philanthropy in the region. It's part and parcel of the region. To be successful, I would say you would need first to build warm relations, and that can take time, at least 6 months, to really understand the local, the local infrastructure, the local culture. It's very important to have your compliance. Once you have the relations, also to have your compliance in order, and to have projects that have a strong impact and to represent organizations that are also reputable organizations, because this is something that is strongly valued in the region. Example is, of course, the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, but there are many more other examples to cite. So I would say if you really focus on this and on the more longer term strategy, understanding that it needs that you need patience and time, and collaboration probably first with local organizations that already have their footprint in the region, that are having the licenses being supported by the governments, then you have the ingredients to be successful in the region. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes. So for context, I work for Chapel in York. So for context, I would say you can reach me here, but you can also reach Chapel in York. I'll be very happy to support further in specific questions. And yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rivka. I have a question in the chat. Please, can you explain a little more about what is defined as a fundraising campaign needing a license?
Yes, so you cannot, what I wanted to say is that you cannot just, if you want to do a fundraising in the region, you cannot just as an international organization start a fundraising campaign because you need to be accredited by the government, so you need to be licensed. So if you want to do this and you are new to the region, the best is to work with an organization that is already having those licenses, a local organization, and to have a local organization to make sure that you can start your fundraising campaign. So that's what I meant.
All right. Another question from Sam around license too. In terms of the licensing for charities undertaking fundraising in the Gulf, are licenses also required for more informal activities such as coffees, one-on-one, one-to-one meetings?
No, in that case, not. No, it's when you want to. No, once you do the fundraising, and of course, if you ideally you build also you establish a legal entity over time. That's also what we did when we were working in the regions and different countries, to have your legal entity in place. But no, for the start of the networking, you don't need to have this yet.
Okay, another question. What about the digital campaigns? Can we target the GCC without license?
I believe you also need license for digital campaigns. There's a strong focus now on digital giving, on using blockchain technology also in giving, supported by the states, for example, in Saudi Arabia. But here also you need government licensing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Rivka. Oh, another one from Tanya. Could you speak a little about regional differences and strategic partnerships on the ground between institutions outside the Gulf region?
I don't totally understand the question. Between regional differences and?
Could you speak a little about regional differences and strategic partnerships on the ground between institutions outside the Gulf region?
Differences between regions and fundraising, like fundraising in the Gulf and fundraising with the same organizations in other regions?
Well, I think I understand if you're on the ground, if you're an institution on the ground, well, it's not totally clear to me either. Anyway.
No, it's not. Maybe that can be. Maybe the person can ask the question again. Like.
Okay, Tanya, can we rephrase, and I'll ask it again after Karima's presentation. Thank you, Tanya. Sorry. Another one. Can Chapel in York assist with a donation to a UK charity from a private individual who lives in Kuwait? The charity is not registered in Kuwait, nor has a license. Would we need to obtain one? Okay, I'm the head of international fundraising. You would have to ask this question to our head of philanthropy, and I will put her email in the chat. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll move to Karima now. And if you guys have more questions for Rivka, you can still write them and I'll ask her after Karima is finished. Karima, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Arnaud. Thank you, Rivka, for the presentation. So I'll start talking about my personal experience as the CEO of the Intisar Foundation. So the Intisar Foundation is a charity founded by a Kuwaiti princess in 2017, and we were registered in UK with offices registered in Kuwait and Lebanon. So this was part of our strategy, and this is the kind of first advisors I would recommend in the sense that we decided first to register in UK to show that we are matching the international standards in terms of transparency and fund transaction control. So that's something important when you want to have credit for any donor, because they usually ask for all your report or the accounts, and they want to make sure that you follow ethical policy. And this is something that we have also developed internally. We used to publish ethical report every year regarding the way we interact or deal with our beneficiaries, the way we work with all the partners. And I think this is something very important when you approach donors, to show that the ethical part is also very important and something that you take into consideration in your organization. So as a UK registered charity, we build our strategy of fundraising in different ways. The first one was from UK. From UK, we worked with private sector, with companies who usually have businesses in the Gulf countries. So the mission of the Intisar Foundation, I didn't mention that, was to support women affected by war, violence, and trauma in the Arab world. And we used to provide mental health for women through drama therapy, which is a combination of theater and psychology. So our strategy from UK to raise fund as a Kuwaiti organization, if I may call it this way, as our founder was Kuwaiti, was to establish partnership with private sector in UK, banks, and work with them to build internal women committee to show that their organization were aligned with our values, which were to support women and to self-empower them. And this is something interesting also for them. We were in a win-win situation because they could benefit from the gift aid and have tax exemptions. So not only they were gaining this from their side in UK, but also for all their clients who were based or from the Gulf region. They were showing that they know how to give back to the region through the women in the region, having this kind of partnership. So this was our approach from UK. And I think this is something that you should also take into consideration. Thinking of raising funds in the Gulf is also raising funds from where you are, but through local partners that are working directly in the Gulf countries. The second way we used to raise funds is through our local structures. The one in Kuwait, so it was quite interesting to see that even though our founder was from the royal family, with connections in all ministries, we had to go through the official process, which is to register at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have a special department that controls all the flow, all the actions, all the work that is done by international organizations willing to collect funds in Kuwait. And you have to know that they control, you have to declare all the funds that usually collect in Kuwait and from Kuwait. So this is something also important to keep in mind, to show you that this is actually what Rivka was mentioning when she was talking about transparency. And we experienced it concretely, whatever our status. They control and want to make sure that the funds are really allocated, and they are not allocated for any non-official organization or any other actions that are not aligned with their policy. I may say that. So this was for the organization that we registered in Kuwait. And the third one was through our local structure registered in Lebanon. Why Lebanon? Because Lebanon was a place where we had most of our beneficiaries. They were from Lebanon, from Syria, from Palestine, from Jordan. We also had Iraqi women. So Lebanon was also a place where many international donors were looking for projects to be founded. And it helped us also to approach GCC from Lebanon through the embassies. So the embassy of Kuwait, of Saudi Arabia, of Bahrain, of Qatar, they allocate also funds for projects that are implemented locally. But you must register locally, and the process in Lebanon was quite longer because of the political situation and the interruptions in the government, and there were no government for a long period. But we managed to get our registration in Lebanon. So this is also one of my recommendation is you can also approach this GCC outside GCC, and sometimes it can be more interesting because you can collect or attract public funds through the embassies. And as also what I can share with you as an experience is we have to forget and we should not have this fantasy, if I may call it, of the GCC countries that are pouring millions or billions in any organizations. For me, we have to be realistic, because any donor will have big expectations. The first one is to see, I think it's the human approach. Our strategy was to share concretely the real impact of our programs. And it was not only through reports, because we could send weekly reports. We used also to send recording or concrete testimonial of our women, and show how transformative the program were. But we used to invite either our donors or the representative of the donors for a field visit, and to attend sessions where women would share their experience and really make them feel that their contribution made a difference in their life. So I think that unfortunately, charities and NGO work is now too administrative, and we're losing the human approach. And I think that what helped us at the Intisar Foundation is that the human part was always at the center of our activities. So the follow-up with the donor was personalized, human, and they could really feel what was happening on the field. And so that's a recommendation that I will also give. I also recommend, as also Rivka mentioned, to have local collaborations, and make sure also that you are into a collaborative approach, which is actually to have a kind of flexible way of thinking together the project. If your project doesn't fully align with the donor, I recommend to think of something that can be shaped to match the donor expectation. It can be a collaboration where you will change the way you designed initially your project. But if you think of something that won't move as a strategy, as the way you implement your project, you will face a wall, because a donor also has expectations. And I think that you should give yourself the chance to have a first opportunity, a first collaboration, to know each other, and for the next step to grow and develop each other project that they will be funding. And I give you an example for in terms of education or poverty. If you take the example of Saudi Arabia, which is now known as one of the most the richest country in the region, and the one that has the biggest GDP and the spotlight currently with their Vision 2030. You must know that in Saudi Arabia, 30% of the population live under the level of poverty. And there is also a problem of literacy. So if I were a big international organization, and if my mission is education, I will think of a project that involves a win-win situation where I can collect funds in Saudi Arabia, but at the same time collaborate with a local organization to grow this and tackle this issue of poverty and education. And I think that's a way, this is the kind of collaboration I expect. If you know concretely what's happening in the country, despite the billions that they usually give as zakat, as charity, despite the biggest organization that you can find there, like Al-Walid Philanthropy and other big organizations, there are still challenges that the country has to face. And I think as foreign organizations, you can also bring your expertise and experience to collaborate. So usually, I introduce myself as Chapel York. This is like a kind of services we can offer to accompany international organizations to know better the local market, because we're talking about a market. And sometimes donors tell you what is the ROI, what is the return on investment. And you must now understand that fundraising and charity work like companies. They invest, they want to know what they will get back in return. It is visibility. It may be also local influence to change their image with the local population and show that they did a great action, for example. So I think that the mentality that most of people have, which is quite naive, I will call it naive, I would say that there is a real way to think of strategic philanthropy and fundraising. And another last point I would like to mention, two last points. It's also the collaboration with the public sector, but also how you can also transform part of your activities as a social enterprises activity, which is an activity that will generate business with your beneficiaries. So I'll give you a concrete example that we've developed with the Intisar Foundation in our strategy. Usually, so all the beneficiaries were women in need of mental health and mental support. We actually discovered that these women, before war, they had a social life, they had a professional status, and all of a sudden they became nothing. And they just got this title of refugees, which is quite diminishing for them. So for us to give them, to get them back to life, not only mentally, but also socially, we made an assessment to assess their skills. And we discovered that many of them had different skills, knowledge, diplomas, etc. And we managed to develop an internal activity of stitching. So we created a line of product that they used to design, clothes, accessoires, etc. So in parallel, while self-empowering them mentally, we also, in our strategy, included that self-empowerment is also a way to become independent economically. So they used to generate revenues from these activities, and we could show to our donors if the revenues that we used to generate could cover part of the programs. So what was interesting for them is to show that the system, the way you think of your organization, is also sustainable. So sustainability is also a dimension that you must take into consideration, because donors are not just pouring money into different organizations. They really want to think properly. They want to understand what is the long-term impact. They want to see the interest and the return on investments in a way. And I think that this will be my last word. I think I've talked more than 10 minutes, but I'm happy to answer all your questions. Thank you, Arnaud.
Thank you very much, Karima. It was really interesting. Don't worry about the time. There's a question for you. Dear Karima, how do you manage the visibility requirement of the Gulf donors? As we might say, they tend to be a bit demanding, and some visibility requirements are not realistic.
Thank you. So I see this question is from Ihab Shaban.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what do you mean by visibility requirement? Do you talk about the communication that is expected from your programs, or are you talking about the promotion of the donor himself, or the program that you are implementing, so that I understand well your question, please?
Okay, so Ihaba, you can write it again.
Yes.
A question for both of you. Is fundraising for overheads cost more challenging in the Gulf?
Yeah, in my experience, working also for the ICRC, it was a challenging topic, not only from the Islamic point of view, that if it needs to be a Zakat fund, then you cannot have overheads being paid out of it. So you need to have them paid out of different funding streams. But also many donors, even at the state level, were quite reluctant to pay the level of overheads that we required as a standard. So here, as an organization, you need to have a certain flexibility on the one hand, but also you need to be able to have those warm relations to be able to negotiate well with the donors on the overheads. Because there, in my experience, also there's always a margin of maneuver there.
All right, thank you. Another one. Is there any chance to obtain human rights funding in the Gulf, or is it quite unlikely?
Well, I can answer that question talking about the IOM, which is the International Migration Office. I think that the question of human rights are taking more and more place in the region. Why? Because these countries are known internationally from a business aspect, and they have these notations from the international agencies. And usually, what has been actually a black point in terms of image these last years, it was the freedom of speech, media, press, media, and human rights. They're trying to correct this image, and they are actually founding projects in that field of human rights. We talk mainly about human trafficking because the region has the highest level rate of international migrant workers. But also I think that there are some topics that are still taboo if we talk about LGBT. So I know that as an experience because I used to attend meetings with international organizations. And the question of migrant was always raised, but this is something that they are tackling. They have also implemented internal and local reform to give them rights and to treat them better. They have opened centers for them, for those who are facing problems with their sponsors. But the issue of LGBT is something that is still taboo, and because of the tradition and the culture, if I may say. But it depends on which human rights you're talking about.
All right. Yeah, Rivka?
No, I sorry, I read the question of Ilham or Ihab.
Ihab.
Yes, on visibility. If I can come in on.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends also again on the identity of the organization you're fundraising for, because in my experience, also working for the ICRC, that is this very strong independence, neutrality, NIHA principles. It was very difficult to give the recognitions that the donors required. For example, if you have a donor supporting a specific country in which the donor also has a role for plays a role in a conflict, thinking of Saudi Arabia supporting specific groups in Yemen. So then it's very difficult first to fundraise from these donors, but also to give them recognition. So I think it really depends on the situation. If it's very politicized, then it can be a very a big problem.
Yes, I would say also to complete what Rivka just said for Ihab Shaban. I think that this is what we've done internally at the Intisar Foundation with our ethical policy. And this is something that we use to explain since day one to our donors in terms of privacy and the privacy of the informations that the personal information that we have about our beneficiaries. And usually they would understand that we would not share the names, the age, or any personal information about the beneficiaries. However, we will share the results and the impact of the program, which was actually measured scientifically with different way of scaling with our therapists, etc. But I think it's something that you should, let's say, have as an internal policy so that your the donor that you will meet understand that you also protect your beneficiaries, and this is with them, but it will be with other organizations. And I think it's a way that to create a trust between you and your donors instead of interacting with them with confrontation, saying that we will not actually share, etc. I think you should anticipate and explain that your internal policy in terms of ethical rules doesn't allow you to share personal information about the beneficiaries.
All right. We'll take a last question from Leonie. Is it common? It moved a bit, sorry. Is it common for organizations, private donors, alumni, to support university or scientific research in the region, obviously?
Yes, and this is what most of the alumni network and group actually do. They understand that they have a big now community of alumni, and they work with them to support university or scientific research because they would like them to give back to the institution that helped them have their diploma and start their career. So there is this mentality of giving back in the education field, and and keeping this personal link with your the university that trained you, or the community, the scientific community that you worked with during your studies.
All right, thank you very much. We're coming to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, Rivka. Thank you so much, Karima. I will conclude in kind of answering a last question from Nikki. Yes, we would like to help you raise funds in the region, in the Gulf, in the Middle East. This is why we're doing this webinar. As the head of international fundraising, I have a fabulous team of experts all around the world. And obviously, if you need to raise funds in the region, I have Karima, I have Rivka. We can have a chat, we can have a call, or talk about your needs, see which one of them is the best to help you. You have my email in the chat. So get back to me and we'll get in touch. We'd love to help you. Thank you, everyone. We will have another webinar in March, and we will keep you posted. And that's it for today. Thanks again, ladies. Bye-bye.